I have made a decision, and I'm planning to make my intentions clear next week. Um, this week really is about the legislature rolling out its priorities, the state address, and listening to Vermonters and hearing what we're going to get done here at the State House.
Is there a path forward, do you think, well, would you run as a Democrat or a progressive?
I think that's putting the cart before the horse, although I have run for the lieutenant governor's office and for the state senate as both a Democrat and a progressive through that process.
So you've made up your mind. Is that what you said? You've made a decision.
I have been working for a long time to make a decision, and I'm finalizing that decision. I'll be making an announcement next week.
And so why not just tell us today what that decision is?
Well, actually, like I said, the intention has been to allow the process here to unfold and have the focus. And I had not intended for people to even know I was going to make the announcement until next week, to let this week go by and focus on, I know in the House and in the Senate, they're talking about paid family leave. They're talking about the minimum wage. We're talking about the climate crisis. We're talking about affordable housing. And I think that's really the focus for most folks and where the attention should be spent. And next week, early in the week, I'll be making my intentions clear.
Do you think Governor Scott is beatable this year?
I have a lot of respect for Governor Scott, and I think he's served the state well. I think there's a number of issues that have come to light, certainly recently, that were part of his mission that we're seeing state government not quite be able to do. I think we've come up short on climate crisis mitigation issues, and I think it's important that we have a little more vision and a little more action for working people across the state, building our rural economy, than what we've seen these last few years.
Do you think you could beat Governor Scott in that?
Well, I mean, I've done a lot of thought about whether I could beat him, whether TJ could do a good job and beat him, whether Rebecca Holcomb could beat him. I think it's not about which one of us. I think it's about the issues for Vermonters and whether he's really performed to be able to help working people across the state and, like I said, the climate crisis. And I think 2020 is a year where there's certainly the opportunity for a robust debate and a positive outcome.
You have made a decision, you're just not sharing it with us at this time.
I have been in a long conversation with my family about it with respect to my business, with respect to the family time and the commitment, and with respect to the last question, but also thinking about what the issues are that are important to Vermonters. And I'll be announcing the results of the conversation we've been having next week.
What's the climate crisis shortcomings that the governor has in your mind?
Well, I think for a lot of people, we're hearing from people all over the state. I think there's been public hearings all over the state. There have been gatherings. There's already announcements that people are going to be coming to the State House because in these last few years, the carbon emissions for the state has gone up, not down. There has been some progress, primarily through legislative initiative around alternative transportation and renewable energy, but it's quite clear with the leadership of Greta Thunberg and other young people who are really concerned about the climate and their future that we are not doing enough to move into the new climate economy.
Every time the governor mentions his concerns about the climate solutions, it's that it would raise costs on regular Vermonters, right? What are some of your ideas that would improve the response to the climate crisis and actually help Vermonters?
Well, last year, actually, I was on a show with Bob Kinzel here at VPR. Maybe we're not supposed to talk about all your other folks when being interviewed, but okay. I talked a lot about the idea that how we pay for it can be debated. A lot of the proposals are often a challenge for working people and rural people. And as I talked about 2 years ago in my bid for re-election for lieutenant governor, when challenged on this, I said, no matter what we do, we need to make sure that those who are able to pay more, if it's going to cost money to fight climate crisis, are the ones who pay. And that working class, struggling, rural Vermonters, working class Vermonters are not saddled with the costs. It's been very clear that economic disparity has grown in the last 30 or 40 years. The climate crisis and carbon pollution has increased over the last few years, many years, and those are in concert. And those who have resources have the ability, and many have volunteered, that they would welcome paying more so that our kids have a future, so that our farmers have reasonable seasons, And so we have a maple season and a skiing season, which are identity issues for Vermont.
So is that to say that an income tax is a better way to pay for it than a carbon tax?
Well, what I spoke of when I was on your show was, maybe a couple year, kind of like a Snelling tax for those who remember that, a few year marginal income tax investment in the infrastructure of our climate economy.
Do you support the Polina proposal, the Green New Deal for Vermont, which would basically be that 5 years of a...
Whether it's his proposal or some modification to it, I think it could be a little more robust, frankly, or maybe a lot more robust. But,
Did you read VTDigger's report this afternoon?
no, I have been quite busy with the day and headed off to a meeting, and then I got phone call after phone call from all of you to make myself available.
You're announcing on Monday that you're running for governor. Is there anything about that that's incorrect?
I am going to be announcing my intentions on Monday as to what I'm going to be doing.